Hello again. Here we are reviewing chapters 11 through 12. In these chapters, the Grapevine newspaper receives an anonymous letter from a student who is extremely concerned. The student is a junior and is talking about how they're scared at this point because they've been pressured into joining the wave, and when they don't, they catch a lot of flack for it and they catch a lot of pressure. But then they're told if they didn't join, it would be too late. And the kid's like, too late for what? Like it was a threat, but in a non-threat way, if that makes any sense. Also in these chapters, Mr. Ross gets a bodyguard. And at first he thinks it's silly that Robert wants to be his bodyguard and he doesn't understand like what the purpose is. But then he said it was essential to the experiment that he maintain the image of leader of the wave. Having a bodyguard can only enhance that image. He's reasoning with himself that it's okay to behave this way and it's okay to do these things because it's part of the experiment. But at this point, Mr. Ross is the experiment himself as well. He has fallen into this trap of thinking that he is above being manipulated when he is even manipulating himself at this point. Brian and another football player, Duchess, get into a fight. And at the end of this fight, Brian yells, "Strength through discipline, strength through community, strength through action." The fight's supposed to be over football, but this other person that's fighting with Brian isn't a part of the wave. And, David makes a comment that he's hoping that he doesn't get punished too much because, he was just defending the wave. And Lori tries to reason with him and tries to get him to see that, this isn't okay. Like, this isn't all right. And David actually breaks up with Lori and he tells her, he says, "You're against this because you're not special anymore, because you're not the best and the most popular student in class now," which is a huge blow to Lori because that's not why she's upset. She can't even really put her finger 100% on why she's upset. At this point, Lori boycotts the wave rally. That's supposed to be a football pep rally, but it turns into a wave rally. She avoids it. She goes to the newspaper and she ends up running into Alex and Carl, who are also against the wave. And they decide that they have to do something. And jokingly, they call themselves the Ripple. And they decide that they need to print an article in the paper about the wave and get kids on board with the fact that this is not okay. At the end of chapter 12, Lori's dad comes in and tells her about this boy that has been beaten up at school. And I'm going to just read it to you. And he says, "Today after school, a boy was beaten up. Now, I got this story secondhand, so I don't know if it's all accurate, but apparently there was some kind of rally at school today, and he had resisted joining this wave game or something critical about it. The boy's parents are neighbors of one of the men I play golf with. They just moved in this year, so the boy must have been new at the school. Lori says it sounds like he would have been a perfect candidate for joining the wave." "Maybe," said Mr. Saunders, "but Lori, the boy is Jewish. Could that have anything to do with this?" So finally, there is a connection made in the novel directly to the Nazi Germany from someone outside of the school. Lori's dad, who's almost been in support of this at this point, it is finally seeing what's happening. Okay. And at this point, there's all sorts of craziness happening. At the football games, you have to salute or you can't get up into the section that they're in. Brad's telling her, he says, it is what it is. Like you either do it or you don't. Like you don't get to participate in that section. And Lori's like, "Well, I'm not doing it." And Brad's like, "Then get out of here." And he tells her that she needs to do it because, that's just the way that it is. He tells her it's not a big deal. Just do it. And, I don't know. He says it's just a stupid salute. And then she says, "Well, if it's stupid, then just why do I have to do it?" And he tells her, he says, "I don't think anyone's looking. Don't salute, go ahead." And she was like, "No, forget it." she's like, if you think this is stupid, why are you following along with it? And then he snaps, right? He says he's not afraid of anyone, tells her, you better shut up, because a lot of people noticed that she didn't go to the Wave rally. At this point, people are almost like worshiping Ben Ross. He is their leader. He is the person who is in charge. He is the person who they are following. And, he is Hitler of this school at this time. So Lori meets up with Amy and tells her that she's printing this article. Amy tells her she can't. And then Amy also freaks out and tells her, because of this whole Wave thing, that she says, I don't feel like I have to step up or keep up with Lori Saunders, and people will still like me. And she, Lori tells her, she says, I always knew you felt like this, but, this is the first time you're telling me. And then Lori tells her the only reason she's against the Wave is because it means you're not a princess anymore. So this is now two people who have made that comment to Lori about her, feeling that way, about them feeling that way. They go ahead and they print this. They print the article about the Wave, and people start speaking up. Students start speaking out about other instances. Teachers start becoming, scared and voicing their opinion. There are parents now at the office who are trying to, stop what's happening and stop what's going on. And at the end of chapter 14, it is determined that by Robert Billings that Lori's a threat and she has to be stopped. And Brian and David say that they are going to take care of it, and they will make sure that she is neutralized. Basically, the threat will be neutralized. And then chapter 15, Ben's wife, Christy, just puts her foot down. She says, you need to stop. You need to stop this craziness. You need to quit what you're doing. You need to, people are concerned. There's a kid that's been beaten up. There are kids that are scared. She tells him, she says, look, you have got to stop. You are risking everything at this point. She says, you've created this spirit experiment, and now you can't stop. You're a part of this. Because Ben left school early, because he was very frustrated and very scared about what was happening, the principal's looking for Ross. And Christy tells him, she says, you know what, you've got to stop, because he wants to speak to you ASAP. And then we switch to Lori, who is at the school finishing up some stuff at the newspaper, and she ends up being basically stalked by David and Brian. And David tells her that she's causing problems and that she has to stop. And, she tells him she doesn't want to talk to him. She tells him that she won't stop. And, she's not going to do anything. She's going to do and print what she wants because that's her right. And David actually gets physical with her and pushes her down. And that's when David kind of snaps out of his trance and realizes what he's done. He knew all along that this had been wrong, but at the same point, it was part of that crowd mentality, right? That crowd psychology. He wanted to go along with it. He wanted it to be okay. And then we switch back to Ben and Christy, and, she's telling Ben that he's risking not just his reputation, it's hers as well. And that if he doesn't stop this now, people are going to, not want him to teach their kids. So that is her concern, and where she kind of tells him he's got to stop all of this, and it's got to stop now. And then at the very end of chapter 15, David and Lori show up and tell Mr. Ross that they need help. People are scared, and Ben tells them that he's got a plan, right? So he tells them, this is directly from here, he says, you've discovered for yourself what others of the Wave have not yet learned. I promise you that tomorrow I will try to help them toward that discovery, but I have to do it in my way, and I can only ask that you trust me. Can you do that? Come on, it's late for you kids to be out. Listen, do either of you know 2 students who have never been involved in the Wave, 2 students who Wave members don't know and wouldn't miss? So he kind of gives them a glimpse into his plan, but he doesn't give them enough of a glimpse for them to really trust him and really want to listen and actually help him in this endeavor, because, he's already broken their trust, right? He's already, killed their sense of him knowing what he's doing and him, being in control of this. So that was his mistake right there, was that he did not clue them in any further into what they were doing. He was just telling them that they needed to follow along blindly like they had already been doing. And he didn't think to the point that, they're past blind following because, of everything that has happened so far. So that is the end of this review video. I hope you enjoy the end of the novel.